Hi, ThinkCentral is a website that can be a great resource for your reading and math curriculum. In this video, I'll demonstrate some troubleshooting tips and offer some advice that will help you use this resource more efficiently. When you're working within ThinkCentral, I'm going to show you a common problem that some teachers have. This doesn't happen on every computer, but if it's happening to you, I'm going to show you a solution. I'm inside the ePlanner and I want to open up the iTools. When I click on the little iTools icon, and I select View, it's supposed to pop up a window and open up the manipulative tools that I can use for that lesson. However, you can see that it didn't do that. It took me back to my ThinkCentral resources. This is a good clue that your pop-up blockers are causing this problem. I'm going to demonstrate how to turn off the pop-up blockers in Safari and Firefox. In Safari, you can go up to the Safari word at the top left, down to Preferences. You have to look inside here. It depends on which version of the browser you have. For example, I look in the General, Bookmarks, Tabs. This one happens to be in the Security for this browser. There's a little box that says Block Pop-up Windows. I'm going to unselect that and then close it. Now when I try to open up the item in the ePlanner, it's going to pop open for me when I select View. That allows me to use these manipulative tools. I'll also demonstrate this in Firefox. In Firefox, you go to the word Firefox and Preferences, but this is going to be in a different spot. In Firefox, in this version, it's in Content. I'm going to uncheck the Block Pop-up Windows. I've seen it work for teachers when they still have that selected, and other teachers it doesn't work for. So it's important that you check within the ThinkCentral system, and if you can't get your windows to pop up, you definitely are one that needs to get those pop-up blockers to be turned off. What I would like to show you next is how to put ThinkCentral on your bookmarks toolbar so it's easier to access. Instead of having to go out and Google search for ThinkCentral each time, you can put it up above where it's easier to locate up in your bookmarks toolbar, similar to how I have it here, so that it directs you straight to the login screen. I'll show you the steps. First, go ahead and find ThinkCentral in whatever way you're used to doing. I'm going to do a Google search for it. The first one that shows up when I click on ThinkCentral takes me to that login screen. I've checked marked so that it remembers my state, district, and school. And instead of always having to go through that Google search, what I can do is I can add it to my bookmarks toolbar so that I can simply click right there. To do that, you take the icon or the little graphic right next to the URL or address bar. In this case, it's a little orange circle. I click on that orange circle and I start dragging it, and as I move it down to the bookmarks toolbar, it shifts over the other bookmarks that I have so that I can choose where I want this to land. So I'm going to place that right in between here. It also gives me an option to change the name, so if I wanted to say something different, I like to keep it short, so if I put something like ThinkCentral Login, that makes it a little bit longer. I press Enter, and then it sticks inside there, and that link is ready for me. A way that I can change this is I can right-click if I have a mouse that right-clicks. If you don't have a mouse that right-clicks, you can hold down the Control key and click, and it gives you some choices. I can rename that bookmark if I don't like the name of it. I can also delete the bookmark. I already have it there, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. If for any reason your Safari browser does not have the bookmarks toolbar showing, you'll need to go up to the View, and there should be a Show Bookmarks bar in this location. Mine's on, so if I click Hide, it disappears. View, Show Bookmarks bar, it reappears. If you typically use Firefox, you can also put it in the bookmarks bar there. You'll want to make sure that they're viewable under the View, Toolbars, and make sure that there's a check mark next to the bookmarks toolbar. Same step, this time the icon looks a little bit different. It's a little globe. I'll take that globe and I'll start moving it. And as I move it into place, it doesn't shift the other things over. Instead, it leaves like this little gray line, and it moves that gray line when I move it so that I can determine where I want it to drop in. And I don't get to rename it until I do either a right click or a control click. And then to rename it, I'm going to go down to Properties. In the Properties, I can change the name. I can change the URL if there's a different one. It also gives me the option when I right click to delete it out of there. This is a great step so that you don't always have to go searching for that ThinkCentral site. Once you are logged into the ThinkCentral system, you can manage your account information. There's two ways to go into your account information. At the top, in the blue bar, there's an account button. There's also an account icon down in the main screen. You can select either of those words account and it will take you into your account information. It has your name listed, your email address where you can update it if it's incorrect. Most importantly is making sure that you can see the resources that you need for your teaching. Inside this grade section, you want to make sure that you have a check mark for any of the grades that you want to see the resources for. Some people like to have the grade below and the grade above so that they can see other resources based on what their students might need. It's important that if you move grade levels from one year to the next, that you go into the account and you select the new grade so that you can see those resources. There's also a section where you can change your password to make it work for you, and then some password hints in case you ever forget that password. Just don't forget to click Save when you're finished with all of it so that it saves that information. I have another important troubleshooting tip for you for working with resources with your students, especially if you're going to project some of these items on an LCD machine. The sample that I'm going to use, I've filtered out Reading, 3rd grade in English. I'm going to slide down into the Storytown Readers collection. When you open up one of these, it opens up nice and large so that you can put it on display. This is actually a PDF being read in Safari, so it acts a little bit differently depending on if you're using Safari, Internet Explorer, or Firefox. Inside this, when I go down towards the bottom, if I hover, there's a toolbar that shows up that allows me to save or print or move through this by going down a page and up a page. I can also minimize the size or expand it back to its big size. But there's some tools that are hiding that you may not notice. If you move over one more, there's an Acrobat Reader or an Adobe Reader toolbar option, and if you select that, it's going to open up more tools across the top that you might find handy. So again, there's some tools such as your save and your print. You can also go down and up pages here. You can minimize it or make it larger. There's also a button on the far side that fits the window width to enable scrolling, and that just makes it fill up the whole space like it's showing now. And then there's also the option to fit it where you see it all on one page. So depending on what your goal is with the students, that might be helpful. There's also an icon here that says View File in Read Mode. And when you go in read mode, whatever size you currently have it in, it takes all the tools across the top away. It does have the tools down at the bottom that you can still slide to one page to the next, or you can go to the scroll bars on the side as you're going through each of the pages. Now if you want to go back to the tools, again that Adobe Reader icon at the bottom will show those toolbars. Some teachers might even find it helpful to go over to the left side and there's page thumbnails. And what that allows you to do is to see in the story where you're going to. So if you want to go to the page that has the script starting, you can click directly on that and it will display. And then you can play around with the plus sign, make this a little bit larger for your students to be able to interact with it. If you happen to have a smart board or a Promethean board, you would definitely want to download and save a copy and import it into your smart board or your Promethean board flip chart and notebook, because then you can use your tools to write on top of anything, underline words, highlight words. So there's some interaction you can do with that. This does act slightly different in Firefox. In Firefox, when I pull up this same story, my tools across the top are already showing. So I have some options on the far left to turn on my sidebar where I can go through different pages. I can close that sidebar. I can move from page to page with the arrows. I can minimize or zoom in. I can also go into full screen mode, which they call presentation mode. And that again takes away some of those tools. And this is saying, do you want this to be allowed? I'm going to do allow. If you want to check mark, remember it for all PDFs, you can do that also. And then that keeps you in that full screen mode until you press escape on your keyboard. You can use your arrows to go forward on pages, but it takes away some of those extra tools. And then it brings you back when you press escape. It gives you also the options to print and to download. There's a few more options in this arrow where you can go to the first or last page or rotate if the PDF has some images that are displayed in another way. I'm going to jump back to Safari just to show you one more item. I'll close out of this story and close out of the window to get back into the Storytown Intervention Readers. In this, when you go into one of these, it displays nicely, but it might be a little bit too small for your audience to see. So I'm going to turn to the next page, and if you were going to try and read this to your students, you may want to make this a little bit larger. If you go up to the View section in your browser, there is a zoom in and zoom out. If you get really good, you can use the keyboard shortcuts. This is the command and the plus sign to zoom in, command and minus sign to zoom out. So as long as I'm on the screen and clicked on it, I can hold down command and press the plus sign, and that makes it larger. If I go up a little bit further, then I lose my tools. I'd have to scroll down every time I wanted to turn the page. Or I can scroll it just to where I need it, or I can do the minus sign by doing command minus. It brings it back down to size. This is also helpful on the vocabulary list when it opens in a new window. You would want to click the green plus sign to expand the window, and then command plus for however large you want it for the students to be able to view it, or if you want to write on it if you have a smart board or Promethean board. I hope you found those tips helpful so that you can interact with some of these documents in a way that's easier for your students to view and easier for you as a teacher to interact. I'm finished sharing some of my troubleshooting tips. ThinkCentral is such a great place to go for resources. I hope you have a good time exploring through them. But remember some of these tips that I gave you, such as turning off your pop-up blockers, going in and making sure that you have the correct grade set so that you can get to the resources, and using some of those buttons and tools and shortcut keys to make things larger or to find tools that you might find missing. Thank you for watching. Look for more videos that share some tips about using the resources, such as the e-planner for your math as a one-stop shop. Have a great day.